Welcome back to Safety with Zahid. In our previous training series, we have learned how to perform a risk assessment. But have you ever wondered why incidents still happen even when a risk assessment has already been completed? One of the biggest reasons is that the work itself was never analyzed step by step. That's exactly why job safety analysis or JSA is so important. A job safety analysis is a structured method of studying a job before work begins. Instead of looking at the task as one large activity, we divide it into individual work steps. For every step, we identify hazards, assess the risk, and decide how those risks will be controlled before anyone starts working. Imagine asking 10 people to lift a large steel pipe. Most of them would simply say, "We are lifting the pipe." But in the reality, that job consists of many individual activities. The crane must be positioned, the ground must be checked, the lifting accessories must be inspected, the pipe must be rigged correctly, the load must be test lifted, moved, and finally lowered into the position. Every one of these steps has different hazards. If we only assess the lifting activity as a single task, we may miss critical hazards. A JSA forces us to slow down, think carefully, and examine every stage of the work individually. That makes the job safer and helps prevent incidents before they happen. Many people confuse risk assessment with job safety analysis. Although they are closely related, they are not the same. A risk assessment evaluates the overall hazards associated with an activity. A job safety analysis takes that activity and breaks into individual work steps so each step can be examined in detail. In practice, the two processes complement each other. A JSA should be prepared whenever work involves significant hazards or when the job is non-routine, complex, or has the potential to cause serious injury or damage. Typical examples include lifting operation, confined space entry, hot work, work at height, electrical isolation, excavation, chemical handling, and other high-risk activities. Some organizations also require JSA for routine works where conditions can change or where multiple hazards exist. One of the most common mistakes is believing that job safety analysis should be prepared by the HSE department alone. In reality, a JSA is a team effort. The people who perform the work every day often have the best understanding of the practical hazards and challenges. That's why everyone involved in the job should contribute to the discussion. Every member of the team brings valuable knowledge. The crane operator understands the lifting limitations, the rigger knows the correct rigging method, the supervisor understands the work sequence, while HSE Professionals helps identify hazards and ensure effective controls are in place. By combining this knowledge, the team develops a safer and more practical JSA. Worker participation is essential. A JSA should never be prepared in an office without involving the people who will actually perform the work. When workers are encouraged to share their experience, hidden hazards are often identified before the job begins. This improves communication, builds ownership, and helps everyone understand how the work will be carried out safely. Every job safety analysis begins by clearly defining the job. This may sound simple, but a poorly defined scope can lead to an incomplete JSA. The description should be specific enough that everyone understands exactly what work will be performed, where it will take place, and what equipment and personnel are involved. Along with the job title, the JSA should include key information such as work location, date, shift, equipment to be used, and the name of the people involved. These details help ensure that the JSA applies to actual work being performed and not to a different task or location. Once the job has been clearly defined, the next step is to break it down into logical work steps. This is one of the most important parts of the job safety analysis because hazards often change from one step to the next. If we treat the entire job as a single activity, we can easily overlook critical hazard. A work step should describe what is being done, not the hazard, not the control measure. Keep each step simple, clear, and the correct sequence. If a step is too broad, important hazards may be missed. If it is too detailed, the JSA becomes difficult to use. The goal is just to divide the work into practical activities that everyone can easily understand. Let's use our lifting operation as an example. After discussing the job with the team, we divide the work into logical sequence. Each step represents specific activity that will later be analyzed for hazards and control. The work step should always follow the way the job will actually be carried out in the field. Never copy steps from another JSA without verifying that they match the current task. Different locations, equipment, weather conditions, or work method may require a completely different sequence. Now, before finalizing the work steps, ask the team if anything has been missed. The crane operator, rigger, supervisor, and workers may identify additional activities that were overlooked. This discussion improves the quality of the JSA and helps ensure that everyone understands the sequence of work. Now that we have established the work steps, we can begin the most critical part of the job safety analysis, which is identifying the hazards associated with each individual steps. Remember, hazards are linked to the work step, not just the overall. So, we have broken the job into individual work steps. The next step is to identify the hazards associated with each step. A hazard is anything that has a potential to cause injury, illness, property damage, environmental harm, disruption to the operations, something like that. Remember, we identify the hazards first, the risk comes later. One of the biggest mistakes during the job safety analysis is identifying hazards for the entire job instead of for each individual work step. Every work step introduces different hazards. By analyzing each step separately, we reduce the chance of overlooking something very important. Never identify hazards by just sitting in the office or copying a previous JSA. Instead of that, walk to the actual work location, observe the environment, observe the equipment, materials, nearby activities, and the people who are involved in the activity. The workplace often reveals hazards that cannot be seen on the paper. Don't stop at the obvious hazards. Think about what could realistically go wrong. Ask yourself, what could fall? What could move unexpectedly? Who could enter the line of fire? Could the weather change? Could communication fail? Thinking ahead is helping to identify hazards before they become incidents. Let's identify hazards from one of our work steps. During the step of lifting the pipe, workers handle heavy lifting slings and connect them to the pipe and the crane hook. Potential hazards include pinch points between the sling and the pipe, defective lifting accessories, incorrect rigging method, and workers standing in the line of fire if the load shifts unexpectedly. It is important not to confuse hazards with risk. The hazard is the source of harm, while the risk is the possible consequences if someone is exposed to the hazard. For example, a suspended load is the hazard. A worker being struck or crushed by that load is the risk. Clearly separating hazards from the risk makes your JSA more accurate and much easier to understand. Now, once the hazards have been identified, the next step is to evaluate the level of the risk. Not every hazard presents the same level of danger. Some may be lower risk, while others require immediate action before the work can begin. That is where risk assessment within the job safety analysis becomes very essential. After identifying the hazards, the next step is to evaluate the risk associated with each one. During a job safety analysis, we don't assess the overall job. We assess the risk for each individual work step. This helps us understand which activities present the greater danger and where stronger control measures are required. The level of the risk is normally determined by considering two factors: the likelihood of the incident occurring and the severity of the potential consequences. By combining these two factors using the company's approved risk matrix, we can determine the initial risk rating for each hazard. Let's take one example from our lifting operations. During the work step, which is lift and travel with the load, one of the hazards is a suspended load. If a workers enter the line of fire and the load shifts unexpectedly, the consequences could be severe or even fatal. Because of the potential outcome, the initial risk may be rated as high or very high, depending on your organization's risk matrix. A common mistake is reducing the risk rating simply to make the paperwork look better. The purpose of the job safety analysis is to identify the true level of the risk so that the effective controls can be selected. If the initial risk is high, record it honestly. Only after suitable control measures are implemented should the residual risk be reassessed. Identifying hazards and assessing the risk are only part of the process. The most important question is, what are we going to do about them? The next step is to select practical control measures that reduce the risk to an acceptable level before the work begins. After identifying the hazards and assessing the risk, the next step is to decide how these risks will be controlled. The purpose of control measure is not to eliminate every hazard, because that is often impossible. The objective is to reduce the risk to a level that is acceptable for the work to produce safely. When selecting controls, always think about hierarchy of controls. Start with the most effective solutions such as eliminating the hazard or using engineering controls. Then administrative controls such as procedure, supervision, and training comes next. Personal protective equipment or PPE is the last line of defense, and this should never be the only one control. Let's apply control measures to our lifting operations. To reduce the risk of a dropped load, we confirm the weight of the pipe, select the crane with sufficient capacity, inspect all lifting accessories, and ensure the lifting gear is certified. The crane is positioned on firm, stable ground, and the outriggers are fully deployed with suitable support mats where required. Controlling the equipment alone is not enough. We must also protect the people involved. An exclusion zone should be established around the lifting area. Only authorized persons should enter the zone. One designated signal person should communicate with the crane operator, and workers must remain outside the line of fire throughout the lifting operation. Finally, ensure that all personnel wear the required personal protective equipment. Hard hats, safety footwear or safety shoes, gloves, eye protection, and high visibility clothing reduce the severity of injury if an accident occurs. However, PP should never replace the proper planning or engineering controls. It is the final layer of protection, the first layer. Once all control measures have been implemented, reassess the level of the risk. This is known as the residual risk. If the remaining risk is acceptable according to your company's risk matrix, the work may proceed. If the residual risk is still too high, additional controls must be introduced. The work method should be revised, or the job must be postponed until it can perform safely. The technical work of the job safety analysis is now complete. The final step is to document the information correctly, communicate it with the team, obtain the necessary approvals, and ensure everyone understands their responsibilities before the work begins. After completing the analysis, the information must be recorded on the job safety analysis form. The form should be clear, accurate, and easy to understand. Anyone reading it should be able to follow the sequence of work, recognize the hazard, understand the risk, and know exactly which control measure must be implemented. A good job safety analysis should be practical and specific to actual work. Avoid using unclear statements such as work carefully or be safe. Instead, describe exactly what needs to be done. For example, establish an exclusion zone with barriers, or use certified slings inspected before use. Something like that. Clear instructions are much more effective than general advice. Completing the form is not the end of the process. Before work begins, gather the team and review the job safety analysis together. Explain each and every work step, discuss the hazards, confirm the control measures, and encourage everyone to ask questions. Every worker should clearly understand the job before it starts. Before authorizing the work, verify that every control measure listed in the JSA has actually been implemented. Check that the crane is correctly positioned, the outriggers are fully supported, the lifting accessories have been inspected, the exclusion zone is established, and all personnel are wearing the required PPE. Control measure written on the paper has no value unless it is applied in the workplace. A job safety analysis should never be treated as one-time document. Conditions in the workplace can change throughout the day. If something changed that could affect the safety of the job, stop the work, review the JSA, and update it before continuing it. Let's look at some common mistakes that we are doing. For example, copying an old JSA without reviewing the current job, completing the JSA inside the office without visiting the work site, not involving the workers who will actually perform the task, writing unclear control measures, and finally, treating the JSA as a paperwork instead of using as a practical safety tool. Avoiding these mistakes will make your JSA much more effective. Let's review the complete job safety analysis process. First, select the job. Next, break it into logical work steps. Identify hazard associated with each step. Assess the risk. Select appropriate control measures. Complete the JSA form. Review it with your team. Verify that all controls are in place. Then begin the work safely. And finally, review and update the JSA whenever the conditions are changed. Remember, a job safety analysis is much more than a document. It is a structured way of thinking before work begins. It helps team understand the job, recognize the hazards, evaluates the risk, and agrees on the safest way to perform the work. When prepared correctly and followed in the field, a JSA reduces incidents, improves communication, and creates stronger safety culture. Remember, the goal is not simply to complete the paperwork. The goal is to ensure that everyone goes home safe at the end of the day. Thank you very much for watching. If you found this training video useful, please like the video, subscribe to Safety with Zahid, and share it with your colleagues. Together, we can build a safer workplace through practical knowledge and continuous learning.